The fluorescent lights flickered above Warehouse 47 like a dying heartbeat, casting sickly shadows across rows of abandoned storage units. Marcus Rodriguez pulled his baseball cap low, the brim hiding eyes that had seen too much. 10 years since he'd worn a badge. 10 years since everything went to hell. The morning air tasted of rust and regret as bidders gathered around Unit 237B. Marcus studied their faces, the usual suspects. Suburban housewives hunting for vintage treasures, retired contractors hoping for tool jackpots, and the wolves, the ones who smelled blood money from miles away. He recognized the hunger in their eyes because it mirrored his own. "All right, folks," barked Tommy Castellano, the auctioneer whose voice could wake the dead. "Unit 237B rented by." He squinted at his clipboard. "Vincent Vinny the Voice Torino. Been locked up tight for 8 years. Rent stopped coming. Owner's whereabouts unknown." Marcus's blood turned to ice water. Vinny the Voice. The name hit him like a freight train loaded with memories he'd spent a decade trying to forget. His hand instinctively moved to his jacket pocket, fingers finding the worn photo of his daughter Sophia, 8 years old when everything fell apart. 16 now, and she wouldn't even take his calls. Vinny Torino hadn't just disappeared 8 years ago. He'd vanished the same week Marcus's world imploded. The same week the internal affairs investigation destroyed his career, his marriage, his life. The same week he learned that his former partner, Detective Ray Sullivan, had been feeding information to Torino's drug operation for 2 years. "Can't see much from here," Tommy continued, shining his flashlight into the unit's depths. "But I spy some heavy furniture, filing cabinets, and what looks like—" He paused, squinting. "Some kind of safe in the back corner." The crowd murmured with renewed interest. Marcus felt his pulse hammering against his collar. If this was really Vinny's storage unit, if even half the rumors were true about the money he'd stashed away. "Starting bid is $50. Do I hear 50? 50, called out a woman in a floral dress. 75, countered a man with paint-stained overalls. Marcus remained silent, watching, calculating. The FBI had been hunting Vinny's missing millions for a decade. Drug money, protection racket payoffs, laundered casino profits. All of it had vanished when Vinny disappeared. The Bureau estimated he'd hidden somewhere between $3 and $5 million before going ghost. 100, shouted someone from the back. 125, the red emergency exit sign above the unit cast an ominous glow like a warning Marcus chose to ignore. His daughter's college fund sat empty. His rent was 3 months behind. The part-time security job barely kept ramen noodles on the table. He'd fallen so far from the decorated detective he once was. The man who'd believed in justice and truth and doing the right thing. That man was dead. Buried under the weight of Sullivan's betrayal and internal affairs accusations of corruption that he could never quite disprove. $200, Marcus heard himself call out before his brain could stop him. Heads turned. A few bidders sized him up. Average height, worn jeans, stubble that suggested too many sleepless nights. He didn't look like someone who had money to burn on storage unit gambling, which was exactly how he wanted it. 225. The woman in floral dress wasn't backing down. 300, Marcus said, his voice steady, despite the storm in his chest. The bidding war escalated. 400, 500, 750. Each number was another month of rent, another semester of college tuition his daughter would never see from him, but something deep in his gut told him this was it. This was his shot at redemption, or at least at survival. $1,000, the man in overalls was sweating now. Marcus looked around the crowd, saw the doubt creeping into their faces. $1,000 for a storage unit was serious money. Most would drop out now, content to hunt for bargains in safer waters. 1,200, Marcus said quietly. Silence stretched like a taut wire. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, somewhere in the distance. A truck's air brakes hissed like a dying serpent. Going once. Tommy's voice echoed off the metal walls. Going twice. 1,500. A new voice cut through the tension. Marcus turned and felt his world tilt sideways. Ray Sullivan stood at the edge of the crowd, older now, grayer, but still wearing that same smug expression that had haunted Marcus's nightmares for 10 years. His former partner's eyes locked onto his with the cold calculation of a predator who'd just spotted wounded prey. The message was clear. Ray knew exactly whose unit this was, too. 2,000, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper, but carrying the weight of a decade's worth of rage. Ray smiled like a shark tasting blood in the water. 20, 500. The crowd sensed the undercurrent of violence flowing between the two men. People began shifting uncomfortably, creating distance without quite knowing why. Even Tommy the auctioneer looked nervous, his usual showmanship replaced by the edgy tension of a man watching a fuse burn toward dynamite. 3,000, Marcus said. Far. $5,000, Marcus announced, the number hanging in the air like a death sentence. He didn't have $5,000, didn't have 500, but he'd figure that part out later. First, he had to beat Ray Sullivan, had to win this unit and whatever secrets it held. Because somewhere in that storage space might be the evidence that could finally prove Ray's corruption, the proof that Marcus's badge had been stolen, not surrendered in shame. Ray studied him for a long moment, and Marcus saw something flicker behind those cold eyes. Uncertainty, fear. After 10 seconds that felt like 10 years, Ray shook his head and stepped back. Going once, going twice. Sold. Tommy's gavel came down like thunder. Unit 237B goes to the gentleman in the baseball cap for $5,000. Marcus's hands shook as he signed the paperwork. $5,000 due immediately. No exceptions, no payment plans. He stepped outside into the morning sun and called the only person who might help, his brother Luis, who still believed Marcus was innocent of the charges that destroyed his career. I need $5,000, Marcus said when Luis answered. Right now. Jesus, Marcus, what kind of trouble? The kind that might finally prove I was set up, the kind that might get my daughter to speak to me again. 20 minutes later, Luis arrived with cash and questions Marcus couldn't answer yet, not until he knew what was inside Unit 237B. The bolt cutters felt heavy in Marcus's hands as he stood before the metal door that had kept Vinny's secrets locked away for 8 years. Ray Sullivan was gone, but Marcus could feel eyes watching from somewhere in the shadows. The whole thing felt like a trap, but it was too late to turn back now. The lock snapped with a metallic shriek that echoed through the warehouse. Marcus rolled up the door, and musty air rushed out like breath from a tomb. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating furniture covered in dusty sheets, filing cabinets lined up like silent sentinels, and in the back corner, a large safe that looked like it could withstand a nuclear blast. But it was the smell that hit him first. Not just dust and neglect, something else. Something that made his former cop instincts scream danger. Gunpowder. Marcus pulled away the first sheet and found a desk underneath. Normal office furniture. But when he opened the drawers, his blood froze. Ammunition boxes. Lots of them. 9mm, .45 ACP, .38 special. Even some rifle rounds, enough to arm a small army. The second sheet covered a table laden with handguns still in their cases. Glocks, Smith & Wessons, Colt 1911s, all appearing brand new serial numbers likely filed off. This wasn't just a drug dealer's stash house. This was an armory. His hands trembling, Marcus approached the filing cabinets. The first drawer was locked, but a quick search turned up keys taped under the desk inside. He found ledgers, names, dates, amounts, a precise accounting of drug transactions going back 15 years. But it was the second drawer that made his knees buckle. Police reports, internal memos, evidence logs, all bearing his signature, Ray Sullivan's and their former captains. But the documents had been altered, dates changed, evidence descriptions modified, arrest reports fabricated. Someone had been systematically corrupting cases for years, and Marcus's signature was on half of them, forged but convincing enough to destroy a career. His flashlight beam found a manila folder marked "Insurance Policy" in red ink. Inside were photographs. Ray Sullivan accepting envelopes from known dealers. Ray Sullivan meeting with Vinnie Torino in dark parking lots. Ray Sullivan counting cash in his car while Marcus waited obliviously in a nearby diner. This was it. The proof he'd needed for 10 years. Evidence that his partner had been dirty while Marcus himself remained clean. Evidence that could restore his reputation, get his badge back, maybe even rebuild the relationship with his daughter. But as he reached for his phone to call the FBI tip line, Marcus heard something that turned his blood to winter. The distant rumble of car engines, multiple vehicles, approaching fast. He killed his flashlight and moved to the unit as entrance, peering through a crack in the door. 3 black SUVs with government plates were surrounding the warehouse. Men in tactical gear were emerging, moving with the practiced efficiency of federal agents who'd been planning this raid for months. The FBI hadn't just been hunting for Vinnie's money. They'd been watching for anyone who might lead them to it. And Marcus had just painted a target on his back the size of Texas. His phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Stay where you are. We know you are inside. Come out slowly with your hands visible. This is Agent Sarah Chen, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We've been watching this unit for 2 years. Marcus's mind raced. If he walked out now with the evidence, he could prove his innocence, but would lose any chance at the money that could change his life. If he tried to run, he'd look guilty of whatever crimes they suspected him of. If he stayed hidden, they'd tear the place apart and find everything anyway. But there was a third option. He rushed to the safe in the corner, his fingers working frantically at the combination lock. Vinnie had always been predictable. Important dates for important combinations. Marcus tried Sophia's birthday first. Nothing then. The date of Marcus's daughter's birth. Still nothing. Wait. The date of the raid that first brought down Vinnie's operation 8 years ago. The raid that Marcus had led before everything went to hell. The 15th of August 2016. Click, click. The safe door swung open with a whisper, revealing stacks of cash that made Marcus's vision blur. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more. Enough to disappear forever. Enough to start over somewhere with a new name, a new life. But underneath the money were more files, more evidence, and a digital recorder with a note taped to it. For Detective Rodriguez, the only honest cop I ever knew, this will clear your name. Vought Marcus pressed play with shaking fingers. Vinnie's voice crackled through the speaker. If you are hearing this, Marcus, then Ray Sullivan's betrayal finally caught up with all of us. I recorded every conversation, every payoff, every time he sold you out to save his own skin. The dates, the amounts, the cases he compromised. It is all here. You were never dirty, brother. You were just surrounded by people who were. The recording continued for 20 minutes, documenting Ray Sullivan's corruption in meticulous detail. Every bribe, every evidence, tampering, every lie that had destroyed Marcus's career. It was enough to send Ray to federal prison for the rest of his life and completely exonerate Marcus. Outside, Agent Chen's voice echoed through a megaphone. Mr. Rodriguez, we know you are in Unit 237B. We have the building surrounded. Come out now and we can discuss this reasonably. Marcus looked at the money, looked at the recording, looked at the evidence that could restore his life or the cash that could fund his escape. Both would change everything, but only one would make him the man his daughter could respect again. He pocketed the digital recorder and the most damning photographs, then stepped away from the money. Some treasures, he realized, weren't worth the cost of your soul. But as he reached the unit, his entrance, ready to surrender to the FBI, his phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Don't come out yet. Agent Chen is dead. Ray Sullivan is leading this raid. He's been FBI informant for 3 years. This is a trap. He knows you found the evidence. He can't let you leave alive. There is a service tunnel behind the last unit on the north wall. I'll keep them distracted for 5 minutes. After that, you are on your own. A friend. Marcus's blood turned to ice. Through the crack in the door, he could see the tactical team positions. Professional, yes. Even with the tactical gear, Marcus recognized Ray Sullivan's build, his stance, the way he moved. His former partner wasn't just corrupt, he was federal law enforcement now, which meant he had the power to bury Marcus permanently, evidence and all. The red emergency exit light flickered overhead like a dying heartbeat as Marcus faced an impossible choice: trust the anonymous message and run for the tunnel, potentially escaping with evidence that could destroy Ray Sullivan but making himself a fugitive forever, or surrender to what looked like federal agents but might be his execution squad. Either way, his daughter would lose a father. The only question was whether she'd lose him to a prison cell or a pine box. Marcus grabbed as much cash as he could stuff in his jacket, enough to disappear. Not enough to live like a king. The recording device felt heavy in his pocket, weighted with 10 years of vindication and the power to destroy the man who'd stolen his life. Outside, engines revved, tactical boots hit gravel, and somewhere in the darkness, Marcus Rodriguez prepared to run toward either freedom or oblivion, knowing he might never see his daughter again. But finally holding the truth that could set them both free. The red light flickered one last time and died, plunging Unit 237B into absolute darkness as Marcus slipped toward the back wall and whatever waited in the shadows beyond.